Welcome back. Today we're looking at smart cities. They're not really science fiction anymore, are they? We see them evolving fast, especially when you look at China.
Yeah, the speed there is something else.
Right. And it makes you wonder what's driving that incredible pace? What does it actually mean for people living there? So today we're going to dive into the first chapter of Eduardo Moreno's book, Smart Cities, the China Success. He lays out the initial picture there.
Exactly. Think of this as, well, getting straight to the core of Moreno's opening thoughts. We'll unpack how fast and how big China's going with smart cities, what Moreno sees as the key reasons behind it,
The enabling factors.
precisely. And the main ways these technologies are actually being used in city life. It's really about grasping the essence of China's model, at least as Eduardo Moreno introduces it in Chapter 1.
Yeah, our mission here is basically to pull out the most important bits from that first chapter, give you a clear view of China's strategy, maybe some surprising facts too, but, without getting bogged down in techno speak.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's kick off with something Moreno stresses right away, just how fast this is all moving.
Yeah, it's striking. Moreno's analysis immediately highlights this contrast, the sheer speed and scale of smart city tech adoption in China versus, well, the often slower, maybe more fragmented efforts you see elsewhere.
Cement it, yeah.
He actually calls Chinese cities living laboratories. It's this idea that they're actively trying things out, implementing tech to solve real city problems as they pop up.
Living labs. That sounds very dynamic, very experimental on a huge scale. And Moreno points to the government focus on AI as a big driver.
A massive driver.
Mhm.
He argues this national priority has led to AI being woven into the fabric of cities in a way that's, he uses the word incomparable.
Incomparable.
Yeah, incomparable to other countries. Even you look at, say, the U.S., where private companies are pushing AI boundaries.
Hmm.
The urban integration is what stands out in China, according to Moreno.
Okay, so that's the push, but what's the foundation? What makes it possible? Moreno mentions enabling factors.
Right. He drills down into a few key areas. One big one he highlights is the huge, rapid investment in STEM education. Science, technology, engineering, maths.
Building the talent pipeline. He talks about universities like Tsinghua and Peking becoming like global competitors.
Exactly. A real shift in their educational clout.
Mhm.
But yeah, you got the people, but you also need the pipes, the infrastructure for it all to run on.
Makes sense.
Absolutely. And Moreno goes into detail on the critical role of just top-notch digital infrastructure. We're talking widespread, high-speed internet, wireless everywhere, those massive fiber optic networks.
Hmm.
Essentially the city's digital nervous system.
And 5G rollouts playing a part too.
A big part, yeah. He mentioned that the accelerated deployment of 5G is another key piece.
So you have all this connectivity, which
Yeah.
must mean a tidal wave of data, right?
Mm.
Moreno talks about ICT and the Internet of Things being used to harness that.
Yes. Information and communication technologies and IoT. The key thing here is how this vast network of connected things, sensors, cameras, devices, is constantly collecting, processing, and analyzing data from all over the city.
Traffic, energy, environment.
You name it. And this allows for, real-time monitoring. But crucially, it supports data-driven decisions by the people running the city.
Okay, but processing that much data needs serious computing muscle, which brings us to the cloud, I assume.
Spot on. Moreno discusses how vital cloud computing is for providing that flexible, scalable IT backbone. He even names the big Chinese players Alibaba Cloud, Huawei Cloud, Tencent Cloud, who are right up there competing with the American giants.
Interesting. And he touches on the regulatory side, too, how that affects things.
He does. He notes that unlike maybe in Europe with GDPR and strong data privacy rules that can sometimes add friction to cloud expansion, China's environment has allowed for really rapid growth in cloud services.
Though obviously there are ongoing debates and scrutiny around data privacy there, too, as he notes.
Of course, he acknowledges that aspect as well. It's a complex picture.
It really feels like this whole ecosystem is fueled by a constant push for innovation. Moreno mentions significant R&D investment.
Huge investment across AI, IoT, big data, all the core areas. But what's interesting is the collaborative model Moreno points out.
How so?
It's not just siloed research. He describes strong partnerships between the government, universities, and the big tech companies. Plus, these pilot projects in different cities, they act as crucial test beds.
Trying things out before a big rollout.
Exactly. Refining the tech, seeing what works in practice.
Okay, so we have this picture. Fast development, government backing, investment in people and infrastructure, loads of data. But what does it do? What are the actual applications Moreno highlights in Chapter 1? How does it change things on the ground?
Well, he gives several concrete examples. Take transportation. AI is being used to manage traffic signals,
Yeah.
optimize routes, the goal being less congestion.
And fewer emissions as a bonus, I suppose?
That's a key benefit, yeah. Then there's public safety. Moreno talks about advanced surveillance, using data analysis to monitor public spaces.
Which raises questions for some, but the idea is.
The potential, as Moreno outlined it, is moving beyond just reacting to incidents. It's about trying to predict potential threats, maybe prevent crime, and definitely speed up emergency response. He also mentions using tech for better disaster management, early warnings, that kind of thing.
Okay, and healthcare, how does that fit in?
Telemedicine and remote patient monitoring seem to be big areas, according to Moreno, especially useful in dense cities.
Right, making healthcare more accessible or efficient.
That's the idea. More efficient delivery, continuous monitoring for preventative care, managing public health better overall.
And it affects city governance, too, not just services.
Yeah, Moreno looks at that as well. Things like digital platforms for accessing public services. The aim is more transparency, less red tape.
Cutting down on bureaucracy. And maybe more citizen engagement.
That's part of the potential Moreno suggests, making local government feel more responsive, more accountable through these digital channels.
And finally, a really big one, environmental sustainability. Smart tech is being used there, too.
Definitely. Moreno emphasizes integrating smart tech into urban planning itself. Think energy efficiency, better waste management, pollution control. He points to Shenzhen's all-electric public transport fleet as a really tangible example.
Wow, yeah, that's significant.
It shows the real-world environmental impact these systems can have. But stepping back, Moreno stresses this isn't just a random mix of projects.
No, it sounds very coordinated. He mentioned the 5-year plans.
Exactly. National-level strategy, clear policy goals laid out in things like the 13th and 14th 5-year plans.
Yeah.
It's very much a top-down strategic commitment.
And part of that strategy involves working closely with those tech giants.
Absolutely crucial, according to Moreno. These partnerships between government and companies like Alibaba, Huawei, Tencent, they're key to actually getting these smart city solutions built and deployed quickly. They bring the tech know-how and the financial muscle.
It's a model lots of places are looking at now, that public-private partnership approach.
Moreno notes that too, yeah. It's becoming more common globally.
So the government sets the direction, and the tech companies help build the engine, so to speak. Moreno also mentioned pilot projects again, like Zhangyan.
Right. Places like the Xiangyanu area, he presents it as really important. These zones act as test beds to try out and perfect smart city ideas before they go nationwide. Xiangyan is fascinating because it's being built almost from scratch as a smart city.
Designed that way from day one. Wow.
Integrating all the cutting-edge planning and infrastructure from the get-go.
Okay, so if we boil down what Moreno's presenting in this first chapter, he keeps coming back to these core technological pillars, doesn't he?
He really does. He circles back to that essential digital infrastructure, the high-speed broadband, the 5G, the whole IoT network connecting everything up.
And then the data itself. He talks about data lakes and advanced analytics. What exactly is a data lake in this context?
You think of it like a huge central storage pool. It holds vast amounts of raw data from all those different city sources, traffic sensors, energy grids, public transport, you name it. It's stored in its raw format.
So it's flexible.
Very flexible. Then they use advanced analytics tools to dive into that lake and pull out specific insights. Moreno gives examples like, okay, let's predict traffic flow for the next hour, or optimize energy distribution, or even spot patterns that might indicate a security issue.
Extracting value from that massive amount of information.
Precisely, making it actionable for the city managers.
And AI, naturally, is the engine driving a lot of that analysis.
It's central. Moreno underlines how AI is needed to crunch through these incredibly complex data sets, to optimize how the city runs in real time, and ultimately to make services better for people. Think AI managing traffic lights, powering surveillance analysis, or even driving citizen service chatbots.
And the Internet of Things is the glue holding it all together, linking the physical devices to the digital systems.
Exactly. It's that web of interconnected devices, the smart streetlights, the environmental sensors, those waste bins that signal when they're full, that enables the constant monitoring and the quick responses Moreno describes.
Okay. So after digging into this first chapter of Eduardo Moreno's Smart Cities, the China Success, what's the main takeaway you think the listener should hold on to?
Well, I think the core message from Moreno's opening chapter is pretty clear. China's incredibly fast, large-scale smart city development isn't accidental. It's driven by a very deliberate strategy from the government, massive focused investment in the right technologies.
And education, too.
And education, yes. Plus, those strong partnerships between the public sector and tech companies, all underpinned by this fundamentally data-centric way of thinking about how to run a city.
It really does sound ambitious, the scale of it. Which leads to maybe a final thought to leave everyone with, prompted by Moreno's work. As these smart cities keep evolving, following trends like those in China, what's the crucial balance we need to strike? Between harnessing all this amazing technology, using all this data, and considering the wider societal effects, the human element.
That's a really important question. How do we navigate that intersection? It's definitely something to think about as we consider these initial insights from Eduardo Moreno's book. His work certainly gives us a valuable starting point for understanding these powerful forces shaping our urban future.